All right, let's dive right into this explainer and get you absolutely bulletproof for your Red Seal exam by mastering Section 12 of the Canadian Electrical Code. Look, if you've ever stood on a construction site, a farm, or a massive industrial yard and just wondered about that crazy web of wires overhead, well, you're looking at Section 12 in action. Today, I'm your instructor, and we're going to break down these code rules into super simple bite-sized pieces. We'll be using real job site examples, clear visuals, and a few little memory tricks to make sure this stuff sticks in your brain permanently. So here is our Apprentice game plan for today. We're going to hit open wiring basics, clearances and safety, supports and spans, messenger cables, and then wrap the whole thing up with a Red Seal gauntlet. Let's get to it. Kicking things off with Section 1, Open Wiring Basics, which covers Rules 12200 through 12206. Now, normally, insulated conductors belong safely tucked away inside raceways or conduits. But say you're on a job site transitioning existing open wiring to a modern system, like, modernizing an old barn or a warehouse. Well, Rule 12206 gives you two absolutely crucial steps. Step 1, you have to terminate the junction inside a proper box or fitting. Step 2, and trust me, inspectors love this one, every single individual conductor must pass through a separately bushed hole. Why? Well, imagine a single wire vibrating against a sharp metal box edge. It's eventually going to slice right through that insulation and cause a dead short. That bushing is your wire's best friend. Okay, pause. This right here, this is a classic Red Seal trap that constantly trips up first-year apprentices. Rule 12204 says that existing insulated conductors cannot be brought to a dead end at a fitting if it's located more than 300 millimeters from the last supporting insulator. Think of this as the diving board effect. If you've got a wire sticking out past its last support by more than 300 mil, it basically becomes a lever. Wind or just someone bumping it is going to put enormous mechanical stress on that last insulator, and it could literally snap right off the wall. So keep those dead ends tight. Moving right along to Section 2, Clearances and Safety for Exterior Exposed Wiring. Look, the main goal here is keeping live wires way out of reach of people, vehicles, and equipment. So grab your codebook, tab Rule 12-304, and memorize what we call the 453.5 rule for heights. Think about it. If you hang a wire too low over a commercial driveway, a dump truck is going to rip it right down. You need 5 meters of clearance for commercial or industrial driveways. Now, for residential driveways, where you're mostly dealing with minivans or pickups, you can drop that down to 4 meters. And for areas strictly for pedestrians, like a walking path, the minimum is 3.5 meters. Oh, and the code also mandates a 1-meter safety bubble away from windows, doors, and balconies. Basically, if someone can reach out their bedroom window and grab it, you've got a massive safety violation on your hands. Next up is the proximity rule from 12306 subrule 4, and examiners absolutely love this one. High voltage always mounts above low voltage with a 300 millimeter safety gap to prevent dangerous interference. So if you're running insulated conductors up to 750 volts near lower voltage lines, say 300 volts or less, that high voltage must be on top. Why does this matter? Well, think about a heavy storm snapping a high voltage tie. If it's on the bottom, it falls straight to the ground. Bad news. But if it's on top and falls, it hits the low voltage line first, which trips the breakers and prevents a hidden deadly hazard on the ground. Plus, that strict 300 millimeter minimum distance stops electrical arcing between the systems. Now, examiners love testing your spatial awareness, so let's lock in these roof clearances from Rule 12-310. If a roof is flat or can be easily walked on by maintenance crews, you need 2.5 meters of clearance. That's roughly 8 feet, meaning a tall worker with a pipe in their hand won't accidentally whack the line. But if it's a steep, peaked roof that no one is casually walking on, you only need 1 meter. There is one little exception, though. If you manage to get a special deviation permitted under Rule 2-030, you can lower that 2.5 meters on a flat roof down to an absolute hard minimum of 2 meters, but never, ever lower. All right, Section 3. Supports, spans, and Rule 1236 limits. Gravity, wind, Canadian ice storms, these are the absolute enemies of exterior wiring. Because of that, the code is highly specific here. Depending on the exact insulator you're using, Rule 12306 dictates your spacing. For standard exterior brackets, you have to support the run every 3 meters, and you've got to keep the wires 150 millimeters apart. Now, if you upgrade to petticoat insulators, those flared, bell-shaped ones that shed rain so nicely, you can stretch your span to 4.5 meters, as long as you keep the conductors 300 millimeters apart. And, fun fact, if you're indoors and out of the weather, you actually have to support the wires more often, a maximum of 1.5 meters, keeping them 25 millimeters off the surface. Now be aware of this sneaky little exception tucked into Rule 12318. Standard neutral-supported cables can span 40 meters between poles, but the second you attach that cable to a mobile home, that limit shrinks down to 10 meters. Let me tell you exactly why this rule exists. A neutral-supported cable uses a bare messenger wire to bear all the physical weight of the run. Between solid wooden poles or a permanent brick building, a 40-meter stretch is totally fine. But a mobile home? It simply doesn't have the structural framing to handle the massive pulling tension of a 40-meter cable swaying in a winter windstorm. To stop the structure from literally being torn apart, the span is drastically reduced to a maximum of 10 meters. Moving on to Section 4, let's talk messenger cables and exceeding aerial spans. So when you have to cross a massive gap, you lash your insulated conductors to a high-strength messenger cable. But Rule 12.320 says these cables must have at least 7 strands and be made of specific heavy-duty materials. We're talking ACSR, aluminum alloy, or heavily coated galvanized steel to withstand those brutal ice loads. You can't just string up whatever wire is rolling around the back of your truck. Furthermore, the rule dictates that the effective ultimate strength of this messenger cable has to be at least 3 times the calculated maximum working load. When the freezing rain hits, that wire gets incredibly heavy. That 3 times safety factor is what stops a catastrophic failure. Seriously, go highlight that 3 times rule in your codebook index right now. It comes up on exams all the time. Okay, I want to stamp this into your memory right now. Zip ties are never, ever enough on their own to lash a cable. Rule 12.320, Subrule 3, explicitly states the cable ties cannot be the sole means to lash insulated conductors to a messenger cable. Why? Because out in the real world, standard plastic cable ties degrade from UV exposure, they turn brittle in freezing temperatures, and eventually they will snap. You have to use a permanent lashing wire. The code is actively protecting you from a disaster where all your zip ties fail at once and a heavy power cable drops right onto a busy sidewalk. All right, Section 5, you've got the theory down, so it's time for the Red Seal exam gauntlet. Let's test what you know. Here is your first rapid-fire exam check. Let's see if you can nail these. A dump truck entering a commercial driveway. Bam, 5 meters. Attaching a drop to a mobile home. 10-meter max span. Running a 600-volt line near a 120-volt line. High voltage always mounts above with a strict 300-millimeter gap. Passing by a balcony. Keep a 1-meter safety distance. Using petticoat insulators outdoors. You can support them every 4.5 meters. See, by associating the code rule directly with a real-world visual, you totally bypass the confusing code jargon and jump straight to the right answer. Round 2, let's test you heavily on messenger cables and grounding. Minimum strands for that messenger? 7. Can you use just cable ties to lash it? No, never. Transitioning old open wiring to a new system, you need a box with separately bushed holes. And what about that bare neutral messenger? Rule 12.318 says it requires a grounded AC system and has to be attached to an insulator. Lastly, minimum clearance over a walkable flat roof, 2.5 meters. Okay, let's run some quick job site math. How do we calculate messenger strength and roof deviations? Take a second and think about it. For scenario 1, remember Rule 12.320. The strength has to be 3 times the working load. So if the exam throws 500 pounds at you, multiply by 3 to get your 1,500-pound minimum. Easy. For scenario 2, under Rule 12.310, even if you manage to snag a permitted deviation on a flat, walkable roof, you can never drop below 2 meters. If you do the math and get 1.9 meters on your exam, you immediately know it's a code violation. All right, time to put on your inspector hat. Why would you fail an NS90 cable run that's mounted directly to a brick surface? Simple, because Rule 12-318 clearly states it needs a 1-meter clearance from the building. What if a power cable is 150 millimeters from communications wiring? Rule 12-316 dictates a full 300-millimeter gap unless they're separated by conduit. 150 is a violation just waiting to happen, and it's going to lead to massive signal interference for the client. Lock these core magic numbers into your memory. Take a screenshot if you have to. If you know the 453.5 rule for heights, the 2.5 and 1 meter rules for roofs, and that absolutely crucial 300-millimeter safety gap, you are going to crush Section 12 on your Red Seal exam. The electrical code is really just a giant recipe for keeping people alive, but before we wrap up, I want to leave you with this thought. If the code updates next year to account for those massive heavy electric transport vehicles rolling through commercial lots, how do you think these magic numbers are going to shift? Think about it. Thanks for joining me on this explainer, and hey, keep stunning smart out there.